Hey, what's up guys? So in this video, I'm going to have a conversation with my friend and former colleague, Oliver Joyce. He's a full-time indie game developer and the creator of the popular Swords and Sandals franchise. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things, everything from games we're playing and movies we're watching to the game dev process, launching games, making games. We talk about UX, we talk about UI and getting feedback and a lot of different things. So hopefully you find this conversation interesting.
Yeah, you got to kind of work out what to take on board and what is just going to become A, too much work, or B, not in the interest of the game.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's a good point because, when people, they look at the game, they don't always understand what it is you're trying to build. Like they might see a screenshot and have some preconceived notion based on another game it reminds them of or something like that. But in your own head as the creator, you might be going for a completely different thing, and so it's very hard to take. So you got to be careful taking feedback on because sometimes what their angle is coming from a completely different place,
Yeah, and at that time you think, oh yeah, it's a great idea, that's a fantastic idea, but then you kind of realize, oh, I'd probably had thought of that already and there's a reason I discounted it, or it was just going to be this, it ruins this other thing that I had planned, that kind of stuff. I get that a lot with even just showing little bits and pieces of the videos of my games, and every little video you get some comments and you think, oh, that's a cool idea, but then you think, no, it's not going to work because I've planned this, but I haven't shown everyone what I've planned, and if I added everything that they wanted, it's just going to take 5 times longer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you can't put everything in. This is kind of what I'm learning. And what's interesting? Well, it's not very interesting at all. It's kind of expected, but as my project has gone on, the one thing that's been happening is more systems getting pulled out. Where counterintuitively, as a project goes on, you think more systems are added. It's the opposite. Like you start with a lot of dreams, a lot of grand systems, crafting systems and brewing systems. And as the project goes on, you start pulling all these aside and trying to hone in on that core fun game loop. And I think that's pretty funny because you're stripping away as you go rather than building up. Well, that's how it should be, right?
Yeah, and the worst part of that is that you've got to build the damn systems to know that they're not working, or at least build them to a certain point. And I've got so many sort of half-built classes that have the basic enums for all the different things I want to have for this, all the different item types and all that sort of stuff. And then you kind of halfway through and you realize, I'm not going to use any of those. But I wouldn't have, you don't know that. You have to put them in the beginning so you can know that you're not going to use them. Otherwise, if you try to add them later, it becomes a real problem. So you got to, like you said, build with lots of stuff, then take away. I don't know how many other developers do it that way, but I don't know. And the other thing I was thinking of before was I always do like half a design document. So on paper, start off with some scribbles, and I know you do the same with, you write a lot of notes and so on before you start. Then I write up a big Google Doc of all the things, I want in the game and that kind of thing. But then I rarely even go back to that. I sort of, once the game's in development, I'll consult it now and again, but I'll never add to it because I'm like, it's all up here now. So that's sort of, I'm not sure how many developers keep going with the design document later on.
I don't know. I don't think not many. I read a couple of articles that were on Gamer Sutra. I can't remember now, but there was an article that came from I don't know if it was a AAA, maybe it was like a AA agency, but it was all about this situation with design docs and how they're talking about how useful they should be and the extent of their limitations of their usage, and how at some point you kind of discard the doc and you start, because you can't be bound by the design doc. I've talked about this before on videos I made where you can limit the potential of a game by having a design doc kind of constrict you. And this happens when you work. We've worked together in companies where we probably ran into the game design document where it's like you want to go beyond it. It's like, hey, I've got this great idea. I think this game needs it. And the producer will say, it's not in the doc.
Yeah, not in the scope.
Not changing the doc. And so you have to come up with cheeky ways to slide it in without
because so many ideas come through the progression of building the game that you didn't have in the beginning. And so if you're sort of limiting yourself to only what's in the scope of the doc, then sure, your project will probably go out on time, but it may not be the one that you could have built. if you
Yeah.
left that. Hi.
Bring him on. Let's have a look at him.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Zach. Hey.
All right. See you later.
Hello.
You close the door. That
Go
was
make
fun.
some games.
Yeah. The future of swords and sandals. One of the things that I've thought about a bit is sort of engine agnosticity, and something I was never really big on before, where I was like, I use this game engine. This is what I use. And then I realized it's like, it's not how it should work. You know what I mean? You should be able to use the right engine for the right game. And, you know, there's going to be game engines out in 20 years that that don't exist now, but will be perfect for what we want to do. And right now I'm using Godot for Swords and Sandals Immortals. But then we were talking the other day about, like, you know, maybe we both want to start exploring 3D a bit more. And I was thinking, well, Godot 4 is going to have a bit of 3D, but it's still, you know, not up there with Unity and Unreal. And so I'll probably either go back to Unity or maybe even try out Unreal. And I think when you're just starting out in game dev, it's good to learn a game engine, start to get to know it, but then don't feel like you're completely tied to that one engine, because otherwise you can miss out on, you can not miss out when you're always going to miss out a little bit, but you might be building the wrong game in the engine, or using the wrong engine for the game just because, you know, I only know this engine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're tools, you know. I mean, just like programming languages, right? There's so many different programming languages, and each one is its own tool for a particular, you know, type of execution, whether it's, you know.
And you start to find that once you know a couple, they all have familiar sort of things, and it gets
Absolutely.
easier and easier to pick up the others.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, hey,
Beer.
cheers, skull, my friend.
Oh.
So, hey, how about this? The Green Knight trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
cool.
Thanks for sending that. It blew my mind.
Looks really interesting. And I
It
heard
looks
a little
pretty
bit
cool.
about this. I've heard that it's actually kind of a slow burn film, quite a slow paced, almost arty film. And you don't really get that so much from the trailer, or maybe you do a little bit. There are not that many kind of medieval films in general, and let alone sort of Arthurian fantasy films.
Yeah, man, the budget surprised me. Like, the trailer is very impressive. It looks, you know, like it's using the best kind of cinematic stuff. But the budget was 15 million
That's really
compared
low.
to Avengers 220 million.
Yeah, 15 million.
So
is tiny.
it's definitely a kind of art house film. I guess
Yeah.
you could frame it. But man, it just looks like Dark Souls. Well,
Yeah,
aspects of it do.
It does. And I don't mind slow burn as long as you're in the sort of frame of mind for it. You know, a lot of, like, we both liked Heart of the Sea, and a lot of people criticize that for being too slow. But I feel like a film like that really benefited from being slow, because you needed to feel like you're at sea for ages and feel like the struggle was real of, you know, seasickness and thirst and exhaustion, that kind of thing. And
Scurvy.
yeah, but you don't want to go into these movies either tired or impatient. You got to be in the right frame of mind. But I'm 100%. And Dev Patel's cool as well. I loved him in Lion, and I've seen it in a bunch of things. So interesting choice.
And you know, I don't care much for these reviews. You know, because as you know, we're gamers. We're fans of a particular type of culture that aligns with us, and a lot of these people on Metacritic or whatever who are panning some of these films, they're not of that culture. So they don't see why it should be exciting for someone. You know, Heart of the Sea and these movies, they didn't do well at all critically. Like, these movies are, you know, I would probably say it's like 5 or less out of 10, you know, but I like it because it's cool. It's fun. It's got that geek culture. It's got that, yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is, if with movies like this, if they don't do well, all you get is more Marvel movies. You know what I mean? If the only things that sell are Marvel movies, you just get
Are you watching that stuff?
No, like I've seen all.
I think you used to be a fan, right?
Or
if you
I
still
got a
are,
love
I'm
hate
sure.
thing with it. I got a like hate thing with it. You know, I usually get swept up in the hype of things, and I've seen all the Marvel movies up to the end of the Avengers one. Then I kind of felt like, yeah, I'm done. Like, great, story's over. I don't really need to join the next generation. of this.
It's mass production at this point. It's
Yeah.
just mass production.
They
They
start
just
to blur. They start to feel the same, don't they?
Yeah, early on, there was an appeal, but I lost interest very quick. The moment they started churning out those Avengers, and it's like this story, that, it's like, okay, this is I see what you guys are doing here.
And people
And
do
it's not
love
going
them, and I
anywhere.
kind of get that, because it's sort of like McDonald's meals. You know, you kind of know what you're going to get. But just like a McDonald's meal is afterwards, 5 minutes later, you either don't remember it or you feel a bit sick, you know? Like, I mean, that's pretty harsh on Marvel, because tons of people love Marvel, and if you love it and you follow the universe and characters, it's awesome. But my concern is that, like, that's all there is at the moment. Like, if you want to go see a movie, it's probably going to be a Marvel movie at the moment. Like at the cinema.
I mean, look, and it pains me to say it, because growing up, my brother and I used to collect all the comics. We had Thor, we had Spider-Man, like boxes of it, all the special editions. So we are massive fans of Marvel, you know. So you'd think, okay, this guy would love the movies, but it's not about Marvel. I love Marvel, but I have an issue with how they're manufacturing these movies. I think they're a bit soulless. But,
yeah, and it's sort of the same with the new Star Wars movies. It's the same. You know, I love Star Wars, but, you know, everyone's had a few issues with the new ones, and sometimes it's just... The problem is, so we're huge Lord of the Rings fans, right? And the reasons those movies are like lightning in a bottle is because they may never be made again, right? Because they took their time. And when else would you ever get a movie that goes, we're going to have 5 years to make this? Hey, you go away. Hey, hang on. So what else has been going on? Have you been watching anything good on TV? I guess we're in lockdown, so it's all been on TV and, you know, home movies and stuff.
Yeah, I think we've been watching some of the same things. How about Castlevania?
Love it. How good is that?
Did you finish that last season of Castlevania? Oh my God.
So good. The last 2 episodes was
so
like
good.
Video game bosses and huge boss fights, and just the matte painting backgrounds that they do, and just, yeah, you don't get that many good cartoons for adults that, you know, treat the subject
was
matter
so
with
good.
a bit of reverence.
But just so dark and gory, you know.
Yes.
It's not at all for kids.
Yeah, and like...
it was R18, right?
Yeah, fully. And like every season built on the last one, and, you know, even a little slow and talky in parts, but that's not so bad. You don't get that often in cartoons. And yeah, like, and I liked that it wrapped up after 4 seasons. It was like, cool, this is a great self-contained story that's, you know, done now.
Yeah, and in terms of a game adaptation, out of all the different movies that are adaptations of, is that right? Movies that are based on games, that's probably the best version of anything like that I've seen. You know, if you look at like Silent Hill, I mean, this is an animated thing, so it's in a class of its own, you could say, but it really felt like Symphony of the Night.
It did.
And being such a Castlevania fan, it really, with Alucard and I don't know, so good. But what's interesting is that it is R18, okay? So it's for adults. However, it's based on a game, which is typically for younger people.
Yeah.
So
I think they realize that a lot of the kids that grew up playing Castlevania are now adults now.
Right, exactly, because it was on PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So if you were a kid or a young adult or teenager, then you're of age. Last night, I finished a game. I finished Knack 2.
Oh,
I don't know how you feel about Knack, or if you know
I've never
Knack.
played it.
This is right. Okay, so I think Knack 1, I got to the end. I'm not sure I finished that. I think I kind of just fizzled out on the last area, because these are very long games. This game, it just keeps going on, and they have all these moments where you think it's the end, like just in terms of the plot flow. You think, okay, this must be the end. It's like, Armageddon machine, and the second one, I managed to actually finish it. But I have to say this about Knack. It has really good game design. This is a 3D game. It's a combat. I guess it's primarily a combat game, but it's like with platforming aspects as well, where, you know, different puzzles where you have to kind of jump and this thing is like crushing you and you have to time it. You might have to freeze the mechanism with like a skill, and there's always skill trees and stuff. But very impressive in terms of the game design. I had my notebook out the whole time going, holy crap, this is a great game design idea. This is a great game design idea. And look, and these are 3D mechanics, but I still saw great insight in how to use them in different ways in my own game. And yeah, and that's what I guess game design research is all about. Playing other games and kind of seeing, because, you know, everything is recycled. Even Knack is basing all their game design on other things. So it's about kind of finding little nuggets of interesting mechanics and kind of turning him together and making him your own somehow. Like very much the Quentin Tarantino way of making films, you know.
Yeah,
like,
borrow from all the things you love, kind of. And you know, like they say you stand on the shoulders of the giants is a big cliche, but certainly in game dev you do. And you know, there's a reason that certain games are timeless, and there's a reason that when you play a game, so often the UI feels familiar and so on. It's because it's tried and tested and it works. And like, you know, you have to play these games to know, this is why this works or this is why it doesn't work. You know, so often you'll go into a game and, you know, try to build your own shop system or whatever and think, why am I, you know, reinventing all of this? I should just go and play Diablo or something like that and see how they did it, you know, and borrow from that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because it's a proven system. And there's plenty of room for innovation in this. It's not to say that you don't innovate, like you do, but there are foundational aspects that just work, you know, and it's worth leveraging them where they can. And, you know, I ran into that a lot with my own game where early on, I definitely felt like I was recreating the wheel, you know, reinventing the wheel. And much to my detriment, at the time, I felt like very fancy about it. You know, I was like, oh, look at me, I'm coming up with new, but you know, you have this element of delusion when you're making a game as well, because you're so close to your work, where you're thinking, wow, what I'm doing here, everyone's going to think, oh, this is amazing. They're going to recognize this choice I made here as being innovative or whatever, but it's not. Sometimes it might be, but more often than not, it's just going to get lost in translation, and you're better off leveraging something that is a known convention or something like that. And that's what I did, and I ended up actually backtracking a lot of my design decisions early on, especially around like UI, just simple stuff, you know, where I shouldn't have been reinventing the wheel. Like it was, yeah.
Yeah, focus that energy on stuff that matters, you know. If you can borrow UI from somewhere else, you know, why wouldn't you want to? Because the last thing you want is for your UI to feel unfamiliar and therefore a barrier to your game. Is, you know, UI is, and the sad thing with UI as a game developer is it takes, I've said this many times, it's at least half the project for me anyway. But it's one of those things that is just, you only notice it if it's bad. A good game, people will go, oh yeah, the game's good. It's rare they'll go, oh, the UI was so good, you know what I mean? But they'll go, if it's a bad game, they'll go, oh, the menus were clunky and it was terrible. So, you know, you win by them saying nothing.
Yeah, exactly. People don't notice. People only notice the problems. They typically, as long as things are working, they won't pay too much attention to it. And that's what you want. You want this kind of seamless, immersive experience. Not to say, hey, that UI is out of place, or you know, it should be 10 pixels higher, or something like that.
What were you playing on the NAC? Was it on the PlayStation 4 or?
Oh yeah, so I've actually still only got a PlayStation 4. I know a lot of people are on the PlayStation 5, but
not that many here. It's still hard to get.
Oh yeah, because it's still a massive shortage, right? It's so strange. I went to the shop, the hi-fi shop, not long ago, because they were selling all the games. Like they had them all PS5 games on the shelf. So I went to the shop assistant. I said, "Well, do you have any of the consoles?" And he said, "No." So I'm like, "You're selling the games, but you don't have the console." And I'm like, "Have you ever had the console?" It's like, "Oh, we had like 3." It's like, it's been like a year. It's like, you had 3?
I got one a couple of months ago there was some kind of deals website that says, okay, you're going to go on sale at 11 a.m. on this thing. You sign up. I'd signed up, and I probably told you this, but I logged in at 11 o'clock or something like that. Quickly had my order. By 11:01, bought it, pressed OK. Then by 11:02, they're all sold out, and there was something like 5,000 people watching. It tells you like how many people. Then all these people going, "Oh, I had it in my basket, and it was only in there for a minute and a half." And this was something like, there was like 100 PlayStations for sale. So that's something like, you know, 100 times 1,000, $100,000 of stock moved in a couple of minutes. Yeah, so it's definitely
it's definitely desirable at this point. You know.
And the PlayStation 5, to be honest, there aren't many games for it yet. Most of the games you're playing are still just PS4 games that either
a lot of remakes and stuff.
Yeah, remakes and enhancements and so on. But they're going to
be remaking games for. We're going to be on the PlayStation 7 or something.
With remakes,
getting Skyrim and 20th year anniversary or something.
GTA 5 again, that kind of stuff. But
GTA 5 remastered.
the major thing with PS5 is the loading times are quick, and that's a godsend, because I remember you probably going back to play Witcher or games like that, long loading times, and Skyrim and that kind of thing on the old consoles. The loading times, because it's just nice solid state drive now, quick, 5 seconds, 10 seconds
makes a
maximum.
difference, doesn't it? On that note, I tried to play Symphony of the Night Castlevania on the PlayStation 1 about a month ago, and it took so long just to even get to the first menu screen. I was like,
really?
how did I play hundreds of hours of this?
Just because of the
Very
loading
slow.
time on a CD-ROM?
You can hear the CD going zzz, just spinning up, and the PlayStation 1, you got to put the lid down, and sometimes it just spins and fizzles out into oblivion and never loads. Then you got to kind of hold down the reset and play with them until you get, you had issues, man.
It's a really stressful, horrible time, the launch of a game. You always think it's going to be this sort of jubilation and kind of relief, and there's a little bit of that, but it's just also the crushing realization that sort of like, it's out there now, and, it's the end of a journey, because you got to enjoy the journey. When it's over, it's sort of like, even if the game does well or not so well, it can be kind of a little depressing, really.
So what's new on your latest?
Steam page is up. Yeah, you can wish list it now.
Sandals 6.
No, you're right. It's technically Swords and Sandals 6, but I did a poll a while ago to rename it as Swords and Sandals Immortals, which will have like a component of it, which is called Swords and Sandals 6, just to be able. It's kind of like Final Fantasy, where there's a million different names and sequels, and but I spent the last couple of weeks patching some old stuff, so I kind of fell out of the habit of like, what am I doing in this game now? Got back into it yesterday, and instead of doing what I was supposed to be doing, I thought, let's add dual wielding into the game. That'll be cool, right? So all of a sudden, you've built this inventory system and everything. Now you have to go, I don't just have an equip item button now. I need to go equip item. I need to go, is it left hand or right hand? So it requires this, and then all of a sudden I had throw weapon button. Now does that throw the left weapon or the right weapon? And now you have animations for like, okay, if you're pressing attack, it's different animations for dual wielding. So it's opened up a whole can of worms. But I did a little poll on Twitter yesterday, and like I said, dual wielding, good idea, yes or no? And like 95% of people said, yeah, you have to do it. So like I knew that was going to be the case, because dual wielding is cool.
Man.
Yeah,
it just sounds cool. And it's one of these things that will be a bullet point feature on your Steam page,
Yeah, and that as soon as you think you want to do it, I always want to do dual wielding in the game, and even if it adds a bit of extra work, it's more fun in the end, because otherwise you shouldn't not do a feature because it's going to be a bit hard. But all it does is just sets me back a week or so. That's all, hopefully. Yeah. But it'll be worth it in the end. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this week, is just literally a bit of dual wielding. So
these things take time, eh?
They
all
do.
These little, like you mentioned, a week. Like that almost seems like a pretty quick turnaround for a feature like that.
It's not ready yet. It's a week so far.
Oh, right. Okay, man. I can easily lose a week to just the stupidest thing. People, I don't know. I guess to outsiders sometimes who are looking to get into game development, they kind of, I'm not sure it's clear as to how slow it can get sometimes.
The smallest feature can be so complicated.
Like early on at the start of the project, everything's kind of moving fast and it's exciting, and because you're building, the systems you're building are kind of the core systems, like characters are moving and attacking or whatever. But when you get down to the kind of nuanced, once you have various scripts with the potential for conflict, then things start slowing down.
Yeah, it slows down fast. And even like with this dual wielding stuff, it just adds in extra complexities. Like now my animations, I realized that the shield was tied to the hand. And so his left hand, I think, held the shield. And now I'm like, well, it holds the weapon. And it kind of looks stupid on this. So I have to move the shield up to the forearm. But then the animation tool I'm using, Spriter, didn't support that. So I had to just completely redo the arm animations for them all. And when you consider a feature, it's going to be good. But then you just don't realize, even if I say a week now, but I haven't even finished those animations. It might take me 2 or 3 weeks, So it's all fun. Like game dev is, like, you have to enjoy the journey. And if you don't enjoy doing that stuff, you're not going to enjoy game dev, because it's so much more than just, hey, I made Sonic and he's running up and down and jumping, It's like
throughout the journey, there's constant little wins, like you every time you solve a problem, you get this kind of dopamine rush, and you're like, oh, and it keeps you going to the next one. But to get to those dopamine rushes, those little wins, you have to get through the grind. And there's the jubilation you experience from a win is proportionate to how hard the grind was quite often. I'm not sure you feel the great successful like fixing stuff easily. I mean, sometimes you might, but typically it's when you overcome
great adversity. Yeah. It feels good. Like at the time, it's super draining. It feels good the next day when you can start something new. You know what I mean? That's like I wasted like 3 days this last week just on trying to get a Mac build of something working for Steam of an old game, and it was so awfully to work on. But then, and I finished it at like 10 o'clock at night or something. But then the next morning when I was able to go back and work on my own game, I was like, that's when I felt the joy from not having to do it anymore. Yeah.
How important is it to have a Mac build?
I mean, if it was up to me, and here's like, if I was making a lot of money, I would just stop supporting Mac on principle because I don't like them. So, but like, I tell you, like, it's different for everyone. My numbers for Mac represents probably, I don't know, 5% of sales. Maybe that could be generous. It might be lower. So you could argue that like a 5% sales boost is it's worth doing. But the amount of hoops, if it's easy enough, yeah. I always just find there's always some Apple dramas. What's next for your channel? You got any good videos coming up?
I'm glad you asked that, or not so glad. So today I was recording a new video, and I was recording for probably like 45 minutes, just trying to get like different versions of the video. And then I played it back in Premiere, and I realized that I was recording the whole video through a random headset mic sitting under my desk. So it was just garbage, and I couldn't use it. And it was really disappointing, man, because that first time around, you have a lot of energy, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, look, I was excited. It's the right combination of caffeine. It was the right time of day. And then that realization that I have to redo it.
Yeah, and it feels forced the next time, doesn't it? It feels like all the sort of the jokes that you had off the top of your head feel a little bit more,
right.
Like
yeah, right. Because exactly, because you're trying to recapture a bit of what you were saying. Because obviously, the first time around, you kind of, anyway.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Point. But yeah, I want to, what I've been doing, I've been kind of just actually looking at some of the feedback I was getting from the comments of our last playtest. And I got some good stuff that really kind of like, aha, I didn't think about that. Because, I find it really valuable, as I mentioned earlier, because you get so close to your project that you just don't see it from a certain perspective. This
you're too blinded by your own sort of how many times you've played the game and that kind of thing. And often with feedback, sometimes you don't want to hear it, and you know it's true, but like I know they're right. I've been avoiding doing that.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, and you have to kind of you got to know where to draw the line as well. Because some of the stuff is kind of like, well, look, even though that might be good feedback, I'm only one person, and I can't just drag this out for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I'd like to have this wrapped up. I don't even want to put a time frame on it, but
there's always a compromise, isn't there? One way or another.
Look, especially with working and stuff. I mean, I envy you for going full time when you did. And, I'd like to do that at some point as well.
Yeah, well, you're building towards it. The channel is going really well, and, you've got the kits on the Unity store, and, this game in the works. Is many irons in the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, and all those things take a bit of my game dev time. That's the only thing. Because here's the thing, right? When people, like, let's say someone wants to start building a community or marketing, and so they make a YouTube channel, or they start a Discord or something like that, with the hopes that then maybe they have an ecosystem that, that they can share their work in or whatever. But the thing is, there's a time cost to all these things. Making the videos is a massive overhead, obviously. I like it a lot, and I wish I had more time for it. And I've had to slow my video output down a little bit. Like early on when I started my channel, I was churning out even like 2 videos a week. But my game dev was suffering significantly as a result. So I had to kind of shift it a bit. I said, okay, this year I need to focus on the dev, and I did that, and I've been focusing on the dev. So my videos have been slowed down to even like one every 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, and the quality remains good, if not better than it ever was. You basically have to go, well, I only have a certain amount of hours in the day. I'd rather give you a quality video less often than just kind of churn out stuff. In your case, anyway, I just churn out stuff.
Yeah, look, I believe in. I'm a big proponent of quality over quantity, and I think
and it works.
The writings on the wall with that. I don't think there's any dispute that quality will always win over quantity, and that's why you see some of these other YouTubers. They don't release that often. Like they'll release like one massive video every month or 2 months.
Yeah,
and I think even huge. Like I was looking at Danny's channel, and he had like a 6-7 month break somewhere between. I don't know what he was doing. I think he was playing Minecraft or something.
Yeah, that's it. But it obviously, they're in a position now where they have the luxury of I can make good quality videos less often. But you're right. Something has to give. You can either make lots of good videos or you can work on your game. That's the hard part. You have to sort of make that sort of like compromise one way or another, and have a life too.
Yeah, right, exactly. And we have so many hobbies. You can see. I see you got the keyboard there. I've got that piano behind me as well.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah,
but, awesome. These things like learning. Well, in my case, I'm kind of learning from scratch how to play piano, and that's pretty time consuming.
Yeah, and it's good to have hobbies that are not in front of the screen, isn't it?
It doesn't play itself.
No, that's right. Yeah, it's fun. I haven't been playing enough, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah. But ultimately, when I do get the game out, then at that point, I'm hoping it'll give me some freedom to say, okay, so the game is out. Let's focus on the channel. Let's work with the community more, make more content for the community, more maybe tutorials and stuff. Go back to a bit of my roots with the channel, because I started as very much a tutorial channel. But the problem is with the tutorials, they date because Unity versions update, whatever. And I don't want to be stuck in a situation where I'm remaking the same player controller tutorial every 2 years because Unity has changed something.
Yeah, that's the best example of that one. Player controller.
And people writing comments constantly, oh, this doesn't work anymore. It's like, yeah, because this video is
2 or 3 years old now. Yeah.
And that version of Unity is like completely different now. So it's...
Yeah, so you have to have more abstract topics,
Right, so the kind of video topics I try to focus on now are ones that are rather timeless, that can just help people
design philosophies and
through
things
the process. Right, yeah. No, and look, game design. I'd love to do much more on game design. I'm so involved in the game design process, and I study like all the different books and literature that have been out. You have too, right?
Yeah, for sure. We've read lots on the topic.
Balls deep in that.
Yeah.
But there's so many interesting things to talk about there that are worth discussing, and I think a lot of people find value in that.
Yeah, and it shows
much more than technical stuff, because the technical stuff like how to make something move or something you can find that anywhere. Like you can Google that stuff. You can say, hey, you don't need a video for that. I mean,
in many ways, when you've been around in the industry long enough in whatever capacity, you grow as a developer, and then people kind of who are just getting started out start looking at you as a bit of a mentor figure. And it's even if you're one and they are many, in some capacity you kind of you become this default mentor, and so the videos reflect that. You know what I mean? And it's not a bad thing to have like, I like this developer, I like his style of game, and I like his philosophies behind games. I would rather know how his philosophies behind games rather than a technical, here's how to make a particle system in this. You know what I mean? So that's how you find your niche, I guess, as a
Yeah, I mean, look, and that's been good, and I don't mind being that kind of character through the videos, but some of the challenges I've had is people emailing me constantly, writing me like I don't listen, and that's not an issue, but I just don't have the time sometimes. Like there was a few months back where I spent my whole day just writing back to emails, and I got nothing done in terms of my dev. I couldn't release a video that I was going to do on YouTube because the emails they wrote, they were nice emails, they were heartfelt, and I understood their situation. They were looking for advice or looking for help, or whatever. And I get that, but the best way I can do that is through the videos themselves.
Yes.
If I was to help every person one-on-one, there'll be nothing left of me. I'd be completely just,
Yeah, you'd be exhausted.
It'll be done. This whole thing would go under, there'll be no videos, there'll be no nothing, so.
Yeah. And I find that
it's a compromise.
I find that a similar thing with the games I make, the Swords and Sandals games, is I try to be as accessible as I can, because there's a lot of a fan base out there that loved the game when they were young. And so I always try to make a point of, if someone tweets at me or finds me in Discord or YouTube channel, I'll always try to respond. They're not often the detail a lot of people would like, but I think, and you sort of have to work out how much you can and when you can do it, and you can't respond to every YouTube comment and so on, but doing a little bit definitely keeps you in touch with the audience. And
yeah, absolutely.
They do appreciate
I made video for sure, and I made videos even just recently where I made dedicated videos responding to some of the emails I got. Like somebody asked me how do they transition from their job as a pharmacist or whatever. So I dedicated a whole video, and it was a very lengthy email. I had to reread it. It maybe took me like an hour to fully absorb what they were trying to say. But yeah, so I don't mind doing that from time to time because I actually enjoy it. But the problem is when I'm not able to answer somebody, or one of these messages gets lost somewhere, I feel a little bit bad because I know they're thinking that I'm
you've
ignoring
deliberately
them, but it's not that at all. Like I'm not that guy. Like if I could, I would help every single person. But it's that saying, a drowning man can't save anyone from drowning.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you have to.
True.
Yeah, you have to be on top of it yourself before you can help anyone else.
Yeah.
And right now, with all the different shit I have going on, and between my own development and work and family
and just
life,
it's
hard,
exactly.
man.
Yeah, life and lockdown. It's time consuming.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah, and it's exhausting as well. Like I find every morning I start off the day with this real zest and kind of enthusiasm and fire for the project. And by the end of the day, I'm just crawling to the finish line, just like any job. You know what I mean? You sort of you're kind of creatively and mentally a bit exhausted, and then you kind of know that a lot of the time you and I will jump back on the computer, at sort of 8, 9 at night, and then do it some more, because we can't get enough.
Yeah.
We're suckers.
Yeah, and I'd like to play more games too. This is the other thing.
Same.
I had many, like we mentioned some of the games we're playing, but they're not really. They're kind of the games that Knack 2, and I'm playing this Cat's Quest 2. I just finished that. They're kind of family games, and I play that on the TV, on the console.
But you're not playing so much for yourself.
PC games, at night with the neon lights on, with LEDs and headphones on. But I've been doing a bit of that. I've been getting back into. I've been playing Vermintide 2.
Oh yeah, you're telling me about it.
That's a game.
Looks cool.
Oh, that's a game. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
And just playing with like friends online, where we can talk to each other through the headset. That's an experience, man. I'm getting swarmed. Help me! And they come over and I love it, man.
Yeah, I was playing a bit of Chivalry 2 recently, and that was same sort of thing.
Man, we have to play this.
Yeah, the problem is I bought the PS5 version, so they don't have the match. Actually, maybe they do now.
PC Master Race.
Yeah, they might actually, and I think they probably do have the cross platform multiplayer thingy. So the weird thing with Chivalry 2 is you might be in it, and I might be in it, but half the time you just never see the other guy. So
right.
Yeah.
But you can make matches.
I don't know, but I think you can. But that was good fun. I played that for about a week, and then just kept getting my arms chopped off, so I just gave up. But I finished Demon's Souls as well,
brutal,
which was
Demon.
fun.
Oh, did you? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that was good. So I have been getting a bit more gaming in than in past years, and that's part of the luxury of doing it full time, is that you kind of go, well, I have spent my 40 hours for the week, and so I can. You know what I mean? I can do it. Otherwise, I remember when I was working with you at the company and so on, and your only available game dev time is in these sort of nighttime hours. So you feel sometimes guilty when you're playing games instead of making them, even though you need some kind of unwinding downtime.
Yeah, because over the past, I can't even. It's been years, but I've dedicated myself to development, to dev, and any bit of free time I do. I could play a game, and then I think, no, I'll just work on my game or work on something. You know what I mean? So it's kind of good to slowly move back into a bit of a gaming, because you get to a point where you're like, well, what am I doing? Am I? Hey, here he is.
Go away. Go away.
Hello.
Jackie, Yeah. Well, I should probably wrap this video up soon because
Yeah.
that's
That's cool,
one of the many battles of game dev parenting is the parenting side of
man.
it.
Well, look, it's been great to
Yeah,
see you
you
and
too,
catch
man.
up. It's like I'm getting a bit lonely over here as well. You know, with
Yeah.
not being able to see anyone.
We really do crave the sort of the human interaction that that you don't get from being in lockdown. When you're just
So
basically
I'll have
stuck
to have
with
you
your kids.
over again. Well, I'll have to have you over again soon, and
Yeah.
or maybe we can check out your new game as well.
Yeah,
Do a
definitely,
bit of-
mate.
do a bit
And
of a stream of it.
yeah, we'll put a link to the wish lists and all the rest after. So,
Yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
Go wishlist Ollie's game. His Swords and Sandals Immortals.
yeah, always a pleasure, even if it ends up
Yeah.
a bit of a comical farce at the end.
Yeah. All right. All the best, Ollie.
You too,
See you,
John.
Isaac. See you
bye.
guys. Bye.